How's it going, brother? You were out?
Man.
You were running around with the kids or what?
Yeah, just handling some stuff because my kids always forget their homework, so I always have to run back to the school and take whatever they left on the kitchen table.
Okay. Dope,
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the setup, dude. I love what is all the flyers in the background.
The flyers, yeah. It's because before I was in my studio and it was really generic, like just a room,
Right.
And then one day I remembered how I used to have my room all the time, flyers everywhere, pictures,
Right.
And then I realized, like, the reason I put it up is to kind of like give myself like a reminder of all the people, the cities,
Wow.
And so when I come in the studio, it's kind of like all these flyers tie everything in together. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then that way I'm just not, living this life like all secluded, like, like the flyers remind me that I'm part of this, like this thing.
Dude, that's deep, man.
Yeah.
It's like your wall tells a story, not just of LA, but of all the places that you've actually.
Yeah, I mean, like there's stuff here from like New York. I even have some artwork from some friends of mine, Slighton.
Yeah.
Did this one. And there's another one up there, R.A.W.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
Dude, so I see that you're 6BLOCC. Is that the DJ name that you're going by permanently, or do you switch it up?
Yeah, like these days, ever since I first came out with that name, at first I switched over like completely, like I'm just doing 6BLOCC because dubstep, like that was in 2016.
Right.
But then around 2012, I started playing more jungle again, and then around that point is when I started to kind of play using both names.
Oh, cool.
But but like for a good 6 years, I was just trying to stick to 6BLOCC because in 2006 when I changed over to 6BLOCC, for me it was a time to break away from the past and start something new. But then in 2012, like my love for jungle came back, and then so I kind of realized that I was still R.A.W. even though I was trying to mentally push that name to the side. Like I realized that like there was history behind it. And I remember one time in San Diego, somebody came up to me and told me not to let go of the R.A.W. because like it, has so many years behind it. And then like, so it was really because of this stranger who walked up to me in San Diego that made me realize like the strength of both names, because like 6BLOCC is good for the new generation. R.A.W. kind of has all this time behind it, so it was like it was time that I invested. So, I had to bring the name back. And yeah, I mean, but these days I play jungle under 6BLOCC. I play jungle under R.A.W. So it's kind of blurred right now, like my, like the names and what they mean.
Right. That's dope. That's dope, dude. But dude, welcome to the show. I've been wanting to get you on the show.
What?
Ah, little kitty. Little kitty.
Kitty.
What's up, kitty?
Get out of here.
Yeah, brother. Welcome to the show. Been wanting to get you on the show, and I want to hear your story, man. There's a lot of people out there that don't know your story. Today, you've become a legendary DJ, producer in Los Angeles. You travel just about everywhere in the country, out of the country.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your story, man. How did it start? How'd you get into DJing, man? We went to high school together, and was it before then, or tell us your story, brother?
Well, like for me, music has always been. Well, you know what? Like, it's not even music. Like when I really think about it, like the thing with me, even as a kid, I used to watch Sesame Street.
Yeah. And
on Sesame Street, back in the 70s, like the stuff for kids was a lot more experimental back then. Like these days it's kind of more clowning around and like rude humor.
Right.
Back in the 70s, it was more psychedelic and kind of tripped out. Like if you look back at the kids shows, like Sesame Street, there was a lot of sound effects and cool little funk rhythms and like rock rhythms in the back of the shows.
Right.
So growing up, I was always listening to like the sounds in the back. And then, and it was even something that my parents like remarked on, you know, like the fact that I would be repeating like the little sounds inside the show of Sesame Street, but not like the main, you know what I mean? Like not the main songs.
Right.
So for me, it's always been about sound. And I mean, like, that's me now, right? Like looking back. So now I know that that's what it's about. Back then, if like when I was growing up, I would say that I was just into music and having fun.
Right.
And so in third grade is when I started to get into drumming, and I joined the drill team at my elementary.
Oh, dope.
And so when I first started playing in the drill team, they first gave me sticks. Okay. So like I would like walk these long parades just playing sticks. And just basically keeping beat.
Right.
And recently I was just thinking about that, and for like a long time I felt kind of, I don't know, you know, but I just really considered that part of my musical background like not even significant. But now I realize that it's significant because I literally started from basics, like from learning rhythm from the basics, just 2 sticks, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And then from there I worked my way up through the drill team and became the drum leader by the time I got to 6th grade. And so in 6th grade, I kind of developed like a sense of, you know, like a confidence with drum patterns.
Okay.
Because during that time, we would be in drum competitions with the black high schools, and the black high schools were allowed to play what they wanted. We had to play traditional British drum patterns.
Right.
Like marching war patterns.
Okay.
But the bands from the black high schools, they were allowed to play like Planet Rock beats or like breakdance patterns.
Right. Right.
They were allowed to dance and like go down to the ground. Like we had to stand straight and, you know, straight back. And
right.
And so back then I was trying to tell my teacher, hey, can you let me make up some patterns so that we could play something different aside from the same old, you know, like the same traditional drum corps.
Right.
And she said no. But after that is like when I started to, you know, have the, you know, just start to come up with ideas for drum patterns. And so a few years later, I got a drum machine. That was around like 1985. I got a drum machine. And it was a cheap little drum machine from, I think, Montgomery Ward. It was called the Symphonic Drums, and it was like $150. Right. It had like 4 round pads.
Okay.
I have it here somewhere, but it's like packed away. But
you still have it? Oh, that's tough.
Well, actually, I had to buy a new one because the first one is like long gone. Who knows like what happened?
Okay.
But but like on that drum pattern was my introduction to now playing what was in my head on some pads, like digitally.
Yeah.
And so that was 85, and then, you know, right around that time I started to get synthesizers and keyboards, and then I got a 4-track recorder at home. I started making like early 80s electro kind of stuff, like Egyptian Lover.
Right.
And I mean, like, this is all just me, like, being a nerd, like, in my bedroom, you know, and like I was like home a lot, and I would choose to be home a lot just because I was always wanting to play music and make songs. Because back then I would like remake Tour de France. I would remake, you know, like songs that were popular, like Planet Rock or stuff like that.
You were in junior high at this point?
Yeah, like that was like late junior high, like going into 10th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. And so up until the end of 9th grade, I was always alone, like always making music and just like zoned out, you know, like, which is something I didn't realize until I grew up. Right.
Right.
But once I got into high school, everything changed, because up until high school, like my self-identity was kind of like, you know, like good in school, come home, work on music, do my homework.
Right.
Like nothing was really too complicated, you know?
Yeah.
But once I got into high school, then I got more into, you know, like the older crowd and DJing house parties. And then I think like that's where we met.
Yeah.
You know, like during my high school years.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's when, that was like getting close to the late 80s.
Yeah.
So that's started playing house parties, ditching parties, weddings, quinceañeras.
Yeah, 89, 90.
Yeah. So that's when I started to become social with what I was doing, you know, like that's me taking everything that I've been doing by myself in the bedroom and now coming out and playing parties.
That's interesting. It's interesting because back then there were so many DJ crews back then.
Yeah.
It was it's like everyone that we knew were DJs.
Yeah.
You were a DJ. My brother, I was a DJ. Frank, Mr. Fish.
Yeah.
We all grew up in the South Bay. Rob, Machete. So it was just a moment where we found this commonality between each other in high school, which was kind of dope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, because like back then, you know what's funny, like when I think about those days is our crew and our city was pretty much unaware of what was happening in San Fernando Valley, San Gabriel Valley,
right,
Pasadena, but all those areas had like the same thing going on, you know?
Yeah.
Even as far as like San Bernardino, like there was like those Latino party crews and like party.
Right.
I mean, back then, like they were like pretty organized, you know, like really good promotion. Like they had the venues on lock, security, you know. So it's like now that I look back, like the stuff that we did was major. Like, you know, for that time, you know, like for us to go out and do the shows ourselves. But one thing that I do know is that the difference about us and the rest of LA was that we played primarily hip hop and like freestyle.
Yeah.
It was more like the urban sound rather than, because like in East LA and all those other areas, they were primarily like Depeche Mode and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we were more like Atomic Dog.
Yeah.
You know.
Hip hop.
Freestyle.
Two
Live Crew. Shake It. MC ID. You know, like we were more like about the dancing, like, hey.
Yeah, right.
And East LA, they were more about hooking up with chicks and looking good and, you know, all that
kind of Cure. The Smiths.
The wet t-shirt contest, you know.
Moving like this.
Yeah. But I found out like a few years ago, I talked with, because somebody brought up the fact that I was talking shit about a lot of those crews like back in the day. And somebody brought up the fact that the reason why those cities had to play Depeche Mode is because if they played what we played, all the gangsters would come to their parties. So the way they kept it, like the reason why in East LA, a lot of those DJ crews only played Depeche Mode and Morrissey was because if they didn't play that, their party would be packed with gangsters.
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, but they played how they played to get girls and like to get the cool crowd, you know? Yeah, I mean, like I never realized that until somebody brought it up. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, like there's a reason why we only played that." Like,
that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
I mean, because if you think about it, San Fernando, San Gabriel, East LA, like there's like gangsters want to come out to your party.
Yeah,
if you're playing the stuff we played, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. So it's like, so let's go back to high school, where a lot of people, where I met you, I think it was at Daniel's house party, I think. And that was in Carson. And I think JC was doing a party. And at the time you were playing freestyle and some hip hop. And that's where I met you. But you had a different name. Like, how did you get into DJing, getting your turntables and starting? Did you first start DJing in high school? Was it 9th grade, 10th grade, or?
I think it was like I have a memory of lugging my turntables. Like my first turntables were 2 JVC like belt drive turntables. And I probably had like a realistic mixer, you know, like the kind with the 2 switches.
Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Radio Shack. Yeah. Respect Radio Shack.
I know. Like, thank God for them. So like my first memories is lugging around my turntables, crates of records, amplifier, mixer in a station wagon.
Right.
And that was probably like 8th going into 9th grade. Like I was doing that.
Yeah.
And I was just playing for friends really, and like maybe a few weddings here and there.
Right.
But then once I got into high school, then that's when I met, you know, like all you guys, and like started to do stuff with JC, modern music.
Right. And how did your name come up? Because you were known as a different DJ name back then. Like how did that come about?
Well, like when I was by myself, once again, during the years when I was by myself, I was naming myself all kinds of crazy stuff, like Forbidden Lover.
Really?
Yeah, like Forbidden Lover. I even had a name that I gave myself for production called Syrian Sound, kind of trying to be like Egyptian Lover, but taking another country from the Middle East. Like I called myself Syrian Sound.
Okay.
But by the time I really started to take it seriously, my name was DJ One-on-One for battling like one-on-one against somebody. Because back then, like back then it was really competitive, like with all the DJs. As far as the stuff that I wanted to get into, you know, and because I think being in the drum corps, I was always in competitions. So when I got into the DJ stuff, I was still competition minded, you know, because that was my introduction. Was always in competitions, always in rehearsals and things like that, you know. So like, I think the whole like competitive part of DJing to me made it more exciting than just DJing, you know.
It was, because at least in the South Bay, you had a few DJs like that were really in the battle mode. Yeah, I mean, you had yourself, DJ One-on-One. You had Tony A out of Wilmington.
Yeah.
You had who's
System
the guy?
5. Yeah, like there was System 5, System 5 was like the Filipino DJ group, and they were kind
legend. It was Icy Ice.
Yeah, Icy Ice.
Yeah, he was badass, and you would have all these different people that from different crews that were just like so badass. I still remember there was a battle that was in a park in Carson where I think Icy Ice was there, you were there, and it was just so many DJs with that battle element of just playing records you know, against each other. It was a cool time.
Yeah. I mean, like back then, you know, like the time that I battled Tony A at Samarica Hall, and he won. You know, like it's funny because like that, like the moment that he did the trick, you know, that made him the winner. It's like a moment that flashes in my head, like almost every week. It just flashes in my head, like, you know, like randomly.
Right.
But to me, like that was a special moment because up until that point, I was very like, I'm the best, you know, like mentally, right? Like I was always like, nobody can beat me, la, la, la.
Right.
And so that was my first time being humbled, right?
Right.
But for me, it was good because after that, I didn't have that sense of like, I'm the best. After that, I was like, oh shit, I need to work and like, you know, figure out how to, you know, stay relevant and, you know, and like do something different, because the reason Tony A won that battle is because he did a maneuver that no one ever did. So in other words, he brought out his secret weapon, and I was like, oh shit. So
what was the maneuver that he did for the people?
The maneuver he did was, normally you would repeat the record, right? Like cut the record back and forth.
Right.
And so this hand would be on the fader, this one would be on the right turntable, and then left, and then, you know, you pull it back.
Right.
Well, he left the fader in the middle, and with one hand he slapped each record back and forth to make them repeat.
Right.
Now, of course, you could hear when the record goes
backwards. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but it just created this crazy, like, I don't give a fuck style to cutting, because normally with cutting you don't want to hear the record come back.
Right.
You know, like you want to go, it's time. You don't
want to hear it go back. Yeah, right.
But he put the fader in the middle and said, fuck that, and just was slapping the shit out of each, like, time. And like, it was so crazy. And I think it was also a visual attack too, right? Like, it was like a visual psyop, because it was like he was slapping the shit and then doing each one like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Yeah, so like,
so the people were fucking nuts.
Yeah, because I mean, because he's tall as fuck, everybody's hyped, and he's slapping the shit out of the turntable.
Right.
You know? So like, for me, it was like a life-changing moment, because like it just showed me, you know, one, never to think that you're the best, because there's always somebody that's gonna, you know, show something new, and two, like to be humble, and three, to always give it up to someone who fucks it up, you know? So like, after he won, I wasn't mad, because like he did deserve it, you know what I mean? And like, and you know, like when you're in DJ battles, like you always have to give it up to someone, like when, like, you know, when they beat you, you know what I mean?
Right.
because because then if not, then like it makes you like a little baby, or
Yeah.
But like that day for me was really special, and like I actually recently reconnected with Tony A.
Oh, cool.
Because he's doing a documentary on the R.A.W swap meet.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so he's doing a documentary about the mixtape era, Steve Yano, Dr. Dre. He's kind of trying to tell the story of the R.A.W. You know what I mean? Because these days it's just a swap meet.
But people don't know.
Yeah, like they don't know like how important.
Right.
I mean, like the R.A.W. The R.A.W is to hip hop what Melrose is to like the rave scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like the headquarters. It's like the place that you went to
for
find out what's new and just to be in a mix. Yeah.
Right. Get mixtapes. Yep. I think I seen E there one time.
Yeah.
Eazy-E, Ice Cube. I mean, NWA. They would be there all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It was. That's dope. That's dope that he's actually. Big ups to Tony A, man, for doing a documentary, man.
Yeah, he's still doing it. He's bigger now, though. He's all yoked.
Yeah. He's not skinny anymore.
Yeah, because back then, like, we almost looked the same, except he was taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool, though. Like, like, he really has this thing together, and he's doing a proper documentary.
Oh, good for him, dude. That's dope. So you did one-on-one. You were one-on-one for a long time.
Yeah, DJ one-on-one.
You DJ'd warehouses. I mean, not warehouses. This was just house parties.
Yeah, house parties, weddings.
Yeah, it was mostly house parties. Yeah. It was DJing for Jose. I think there was a couple of weddings that we all played. We're like, hey, Raul, hey, dude, you want to DJ this wedding? Yeah, I'll be there. Let's work. We were all helping each other back then.
Yeah.
And
fog machine.
Right. And then monkey boot parties, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, I mean, there was a transition in the music because we were just playing hip hop. The freestyle started to kind of change. It started, and then something happened in the early '90s. There was a new type of music, and how did you discover some of this new music that was on the rise? Like, who opened the door for you there?
It was our friend Nazario, and
fucking Nazario, man.
Yeah.
That motherfucker. He opened the door for me too.
Yeah. Well, see, like
he's the godfather, man. That fucking guy.
Yeah. Well, Nazario back then was one of the few people who could see ahead, or like could like face a different direction, because like we were all facing like the same direction, right?
Yeah.
Like most kids fall into place, but Nazario and a lot of the people he was hanging out with, they were different. Like they were more, I don't know, like they were just different.
Yeah.
And I know that they were different, like they were purposely not trying to do what everybody was doing.
Right.
So Nazario started to, show me some records at the time. Like this is in the late 80s, going into the 90s. I think 1990 was when I started to really become aware of import dance records, which is what he had. Like I was always in the domestic 399 area.
What was it at an event? Was it at a party? Where did you discover?
I think it was most likely at a party, and I would notice that when he would DJ, it wasn't like us, And like,
it wasn't like us.
It wasn't like us, and like all of a sudden, it felt like we were listening to like German radio. Like,
it's a German radio.
German, yeah. Like all of a sudden, it was up. Dun 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 dun. I was like,
right.
What the?
we're playing CNC Music Factory.
Yeah.
Having doubles.
I got the power.
Yeah, I got the power. We're like, oh shit. And suddenly he plays some crazy fucking shit.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like this fool was coming out with records that had stickers that said $8.99, $7.99. I was like, what's this shit?
Right. We're like, what the fuck? That's expensive.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, right.
But it was really back then there was a style of techno called bleep techno.
Right.
And then he also had some records on this label called D-Zone.
Right.
And D-Zone was one of the labels that merged techno and hip hop breakbeats together.
Right.
And it was those records that really got me listening because I could recognize the break, and I recognized that they just sped it up.
Right.
And
what was the first song that you heard him play that you were like, what the fuck?
I think it would have to be The Angels You know, like the one with the yellow cover, black label with the tribal character on it. Yeah, for sure. Like that was, that's the first one.
Badass song, bro.
Yeah. And it's still bad even to this day. It's
to this day, You could. It's that came out what, 90? To this day,
like around 90.
Yeah, it's still sick.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You know, like, I mean, like that record to me was, you know, like the difference about it was that it was deep.
Yeah.
It had that hip hop breakbeat to it. Like the bass line was big. You know, and like back then, not a lot of labels were doing big bass line. A lot of them were just doing techno with the breakbeat, but the bass wasn't really there, you know.
Yeah.
But
I remember
Nazario definitely was the one who got me looking, right, like towards the import section of the record store.
Right.
So after I saw his records, I went to the record stores and pretty much just took a gamble on like what I was buying, because back then you couldn't listen to them.
Right.
So I would go off the cover, and then just kind of like read the back and see where it was from, and just kind of doing research by figuring it out by myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was first trying to look for import records in my area, like around Carson. And back then we had Warehouse, Tower Records, Music Plus on PCH.
Right.
And there was another record store by the Carson Mall called S&S, but they were more soul and hip hop. It was a black-owned records shop.
Yeah.
So back then I realized that I need to venture away from the house and go to the other record stores to find what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then once I found Melrose, it was over. You know,
exactly.
Like I would have my mom take me to all the record stores.
Yeah.
You know, and
Prime Cuts, Street Sounds.
Street Sounds, DMC.
Yeah.
And like I would just go there, and you know, like most likely I probably asked around for like the kind of stuff I was looking for, and like they probably helped me out.
You know what's crazy about that time is that everyone started going there. It was the craziest thing. There was a moment in time where you would go, and then suddenly we would see you there. Oh, what's up, dude? Hey. You see other people. Oh, Oscar, what's going on? Hey, Rob. Everyone that would be a part of the DJ community in LA will be seen in Melrose.
Yeah.
Either at Street Sounds, Prime Cut. It was the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the only place to buy records. It was an amazing time.
Yeah.
But there wasn't there a place in Long Beach? There was a place in Long Beach.
Yeah, there was a place. It was on Broadway. I forget the name of it now.
Record Reaction.
Yeah, Record Reaction.
Record Reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were good too. Like I actually got a lot of my records from there as well.
Yeah, they were pretty dope. I think Brad worked there for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Melon Funk?
Yeah, Melon Funk. Yeah.
Oh wow.
He worked there for a while.
Yeah.
If my memory strikes me well.
Yeah.
That's dope. So you started going to Melrose. Mom started buying records, and then
and then like I think like quickly after that I should have been driving by that time, but I know definitely like I would ask my mom to help me out. But around that time is when I first started to get paid, you know, from doing the DJ stuff.
Yeah.
Like more, you know, like a little better, so I was able to spend money. But I think quickly after that, I actually started working on Melrose, which is when everything really took off.
Right.
So you know, like at the time, Nazario didn't know it, but he was creating a monster that was now fiending for, you know, to be in the middle of all these records, right?
Right.
Because like I think like now that I look back, the cool part about those records and that music in general is the fact that it wasn't everywhere. Like you had to go to it. Like that techno early breakbeat music, you really had to become a part of it and had to be there at the record stores, because the record stores at the time would only buy 2-3 copies, and those would fly. Yeah. So if you weren't there at the record store, you were going to miss out on like a lot of the good shit.
Right.
So I realized that, and I started working there.
Yeah.
And then I, you know, and quickly became the record buyer. And then now I was in control of the shipments and like cutting open the boxes, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So like, you know, so I quickly became like really involved with, you know, importing those records, you know? So, and like, during the whole 90s, like my whole mind was just consumed with records and primarily jungle records. Like that was like my main love.
Right.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's fucking dope, dude. So you worked where? Street Sounds?
Street Sounds, yeah.
Street Sounds, okay.
I was working there with Freddie. Freddie was a manager.
Yeah.
DJ Rob One from the Fly ID crew.
Rob One.
Yeah, Rob One.
Yeah.
And Frank C, of course, Mr. Fish.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, we always had a lot of different employees coming through.
Yeah.
You know, like some people would work a year, some people a few months, you know, because it was like the kind of job that kind of got like really repetitive. So you really had to love the records, you know, to be able to go in every day, you know.
So you were working there, and this is at the time where you started to DJ more, and it wasn't, you kind of broke away from DJing house parties now. You started getting into more of the, what we call it back then, the underground scene.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, like you were, like, I think you threw the first warehouse party that like I ever did, Groovier, you know?
Right.
And I think there was one more that you did that was like in like an office.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then like George put up all the stencils of like the flying pigs everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, just random, like really random graffiti. But
yeah, it was in a warehouse here. Where was that?
It was like in Wilmington, Carson, right?
Yeah, under the bridge.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so like you were the first one that started doing those kind of shows, and I think like for me at the time it was cool because it was freedom, and at the time I think we both knew that we weren't doing the typical thing that a lot of the other high schoolers like were into. You know what I mean? Like we kind of felt like we were doing something different, right. You know. Underground. Yeah, so so after, you know, because prior to that, like we were doing clubs, weddings. So right. I think for people like me and you, at the time we knew that we were starting this new thing. Yeah. I just think that we were unaware that it was going to keep going and going and going. Yeah. But like, because back then, like I wasn't looking, you know, to this warehouse thing to become this huge thing, you know?
Right.
So like people like me and you, like we didn't get into it because we were looking towards this huge thing. Like we just thought it was cool.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I think my love for the import records, along with the underground events that I was now a part of, like just kind of sucked me in, you know.
Yeah.
And like I think it was in '93. No, like I think I met DJ Dan in 1992. At the club in Costa Mesa, X House.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, you know, right.
Yeah, because like we booked him.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think we, like me and DJ Dan started talking, and he helped me out with some of my first DJ gigs.
Dope.
Yeah, and he was really like the one who brought me into the real world of like bookings and, you know, like the warehouse events that were well funded, you know, where they could pay, because like his manager managed me for a little bit.
Yeah.
She was like my booking agent, and some of my first bookings, like I got paid better then than I do sometimes these days, you know?
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, because like, you know, back then he had a really good manager. Like she was really like business-like and pushy, you know what I mean? Yeah. So right. She was really good. Like she got us paid properly and treated, you know, like flight expenses and hotels and stuff like that back then.
What was her name? I met her a few times. She was really cool.
I don't remember her name, but I just know that.
I remember her face.
Yeah, me too. I just remember she was serious, but like, you know, she could joke around, but she was serious. Like she had black hair. She was kind of short.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was really cool. And DJ Dan was really helpful, like for me, in the beginning of my, in the major part of my DJ career.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. And around that time is where you let go of your DJ one-on-one name and you started DJing with a new name. Can you tell us about that? How did you come up with R.A.W?
It was at the club X House in Costa Mesa, and there was a DJ battle. It was me and J-Rock.
Which, and like, before you continue, is there a video of that anywhere?
No, but I guess there was. I know.
I'm so glad I was there. We were all there. It was a moment in time where it was like so fucking dope.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, right? Yeah, because like it got really loud in there. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, like there was a crazy energy.
Oh man.
But that day I was scratching the Big Daddy Kane R.A.W. record over the Funky Drummer break loop.
Right.
So the break loop's going, and then I'm just scratching the R.A.W.
Yeah.
And as I'm scratching it, it was almost like a light bulb like went off in my head, and like it was like another one of those moments that always replays, like almost like the Tony A moment. This is the second moment that plays in my head like all the time.
Right.
Yeah, but like after that day that I scratched the R.A.W. record, like I knew that was now going to be like the new me, like with like all this energy, you know? So like, I feel like that day, like the people in the club really gave me like the energy, you know, to push forward and like to try to do bigger things and to make noise, you know? And like, after that is when I started to do mixtapes and like really push the R.A.W. name through the mixtapes. And back then I was doing 4-track mixtapes with a lot of scratching, acapellas, movie samples, talking, like, you know, saying dumb shit like at the end of the tape.
Right.
You know, like
he said dumb shit. I think I still have a couple of something. It was like a tagline at the end.
Yeah, just something dumb. You know?
Hello, posse, motherfucker.
Yeah. But you know, but like back then, I was kind of like, what I really liked about what I was doing back then was I knew that I was going to merge the competitive hip hop mentality with the techno stuff, you know, and with the jungle. So back then, like, I pretty much had a really good feeling that like what I was going to do was going to take off because, you know, for me, it was just like a given that people are going to love to hear scratching over techno, you know?
Right.
And like back then, like no one really did it. Like a few people did, but they would do it kind of tame.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like little teaser, but like not anything major.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so like back then, like that was, I think like that's what pretty much made me stand out was the fact that I would scratch a lot and, you know, put the hip hop acapellas over the techno.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
X House, that was a huge moment, man. I still remember that moment like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Because when you went and there was that, it's interesting because you bring up Tony A and you bring up where there was that one moment where he started going with both hands, and it was the moment where people went crazy. And then there was also a moment with J-Rock and X House where you were just scratching R.A.W. and the whole fucking place went fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I still remember, and I think to myself, like, fuck, I wish I could afford a video camera to film this.
Yeah.
Because it was just a historic moment in my book, man. It was badass. Yeah,
but you know what? Like, I also feel that there's something to be said for actually being in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, we lived that moment.
Right.
And, like, this is something that I was telling my son. Because, you know, kids these days are on the video games. Yeah. And I was telling my son, like, don't you notice that all this video game stuff that you do, it never becomes a memory. The only moments in life that become a memory are things that you actually do, something that you partake in, right? Like in reality.
Right.
So yeah, like that Tony A moment and the moment at X House, like for me, like those are moments that are still with me. You know what I mean? Like they're part of who I am, and like now I recognize that those moments play a really important role in who you are as a person, you know, like what kind of temperament you have, like your self-confidence and all those things, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but definitely like the night at the X House, like that's what gave me like the, you know, like the ganas. I was like, hell yeah. Like
yeah. Dude, so after X House, you started to DJ more bigger events, correct?
Yeah.
Because back then, if I remember, there was two types or underground scenes. You had the underground scene, which was referred to the West Side underground scene, and you had more of the Latin underground scene.
Yeah.
So did you play in both scenes, or one specifically over the other? Or?
Yeah, well, you know, DJ Dan and his manager, they were the ones who got me booked at those events.
Right.
You know, at the Casa and at the you know, like at the Masonic
Temple.
Right. Yeah, Masonic Temple.
Right.
But the shows that I did for the Latin underground or for like the East Side,
right?
Like those events were more warehouses,
right?
As well as houses. Like sometimes I would play like a house party, but it was an underground event, you know.
Right.
So for me, you know, this is still something that I battle with to this day because money-wise, the bigger events for the West Side are cool, right? Money-wise.
Right.
But for the true experience and like for what I grew up with, I always feel more at home at a smaller event.
Right.
You know, and even to this day, I still enjoy the smaller events that are just like, you know, put together by some friends.
Right.
I have a better time at those than I do at a major event where you got to wait in line, you got to show your ID and get your passes, and like all that stuff is cool.
Right.
But I'm a lot more happier when I could just walk in, get a drink, DJ, and walk right out. You know.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
You know, just like basic, like a basic party. You know, like that's where I'm a little bit more happy. Yeah.
Right. So, you started DJing a lot of these big underground events, and we're mostly playing what, techno and breakbeat?
Yeah, just mostly. At the time, I would play sometimes hardcore, like I would usually play more for the after hours and like the East Side. But when I would play for the bigger shows, I would break out the jungle, like suburban bass, you know.
Yeah. So when did that start? When did the transition of jungle and playing drum and bass start for you? Because if I remember, you were one of the first people that I remember that started to play that genre of music. It was yourself, it was my brother, it was Rob, it was just a very few people. Like, what year was that?
That was like 93. Because like in 93 is when that specific style of music started to really focus in like on the sound.
Yeah.
Like before that, they were just throwing samples. Like I was just going through a song yesterday called Trip to the Moon by Asen.
Okay.
And I was researching all the samples that he used, and he used samples from an orchestra, from Star Wars, from a cheesy freestyle group, from R.A.W and Rakim.
Wow.
All these different kinds of music. So back then, jungle was just thrown together, right? It was just sample-based music. But in 93, going into 94, labels began to really focus in on a specific sound. And by the time 1994 came around, like the sound quality started to increase, you know, and get better.
Right.
And like, just like the overall sound of the music got heavier, like a little bit, like better sound quality.
Right.
Yeah. So like, it was like 94 going into 95 was when drum and bass really started to take shape. Also because of the technology was getting better.
Yeah.
People were getting better computers, like the samplers were getting better, like bit rate, so the quality of the sounds was getting better.
And that was it went from 93 for how long, where you made the transition of a new type of music, which was more dubstep, that was kind of on the horizon, that you were one of the first people to kind of see it coming. And then you went from R.A.W to 6BLOCC. So tell us about 6BLOCC and that transition.
Well, that was in 2006.
Okay.
And during that time, drum and bass was kind of getting, it was starting to repeat itself. You know, like the music was really getting to a point where everybody was doing the same thing and it was going in a circle.
Right.
Like nobody could figure out like what sound to make to differentiate themselves, you know.
Right.
Everybody was just dark or just techie. Right. And it was kind of like really generic. And then so in 2006, when I was at Jungle's Platoon Studio on Sunset, I was working in the upstairs area in the studio, and I was working on jungle and probably ragged jungle. Like back then, I was doing a lot of really fast jungle, like 190 beats per minute.
Yeah.
And when I turned the computer off, like, you know, just to take a break, I heard, I think it was Scuba. Scuba was playing, or Clutch. Steve or Scuba were playing a mix from the computer on the first floor, and I could hear the bass coming from the bottom, right?
Okay.
And so I was listening to it with my eyes closed, and then I could hear that the bass line was like at a slow tempo, and like at first I thought it was reggae, but then I walked down there and then I just asked him, like, what are you playing? And he said it was a mix by Youngsta, who was a DJ at the time from London. like one of the pioneers of dubstep. And so quickly, I just started to listen, and that same day, I went back upstairs and I started to make it, like at the same tempo.
Right.
And and so in 2006, I just started to experiment with it, and then I just quickly started to really enjoy it because once again, at the time, I was doing really fast stuff. So to work on something so slow and chill, it was like a breather, like
Right.
Yeah, and so for me back then, like dubstep came at the perfect time because production-wise, I was starting to go faster to kind of do something different, right? Because at the time, drum and bass was all the same. So I thought to myself in 2005, let me just make it really fast and just go crazy.
Right.
And then in 2006, I found dubstep, and to me, it was like the perfect music that I needed because it was just so different, and it was just like refreshing to work on something different. And once again, just like in the rave days, I had no clue it was going to blow up.
Right.
I didn't get into it because it's going to blow up.
Right. It was just it was cool.
Yeah. Like a lot of DJs these days, they only get into it if it's hot. They're not going to get into something if it's not hot. Right. But back then, like with dubstep, I just liked the fact that it was dubby and like tripped out and different. But then like with dubstep, like it quickly took off exactly how it did with my techno days, Yeah.
So how'd you come up with 6BLOCC? Where's that come from?
That came from a record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it came from this weird random scratched record. What? And one of the intros has a sample that says, "The bass I create is heard from 6BLOCC," except on the record they accidentally cut off the S off of the word blocks. So So the sample says, "The bass we create is heard from 6BLOCC," and there was something about the way it sounded, but like it just hit my brain, like
Right.
And like once again, I just knew, like almost with everything as far as my DJ stuff goes, it's always a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that sample, the 6BLOCC, I just knew like there was something about it, And so quickly I started to make records under that name and get bookings under that name.
Right.
And then it's cool because back then people didn't know that was me. So when they would see me show up at the show under 6BLOCC, they would be like, "What? Like you're R.A.W."
Right.
Like it was like a trip.
Yeah.
And it actually made it possible for me to play twice at a party under two different names.
Oh, right.
And like that was cool sometimes. Yeah.
You get double booked.
Yeah, you get double booked, like, but it's the same dude. Like what?
Yeah, the same dude. They're expecting two people to show up. They're like, "Hey, where's 6BLOCC?"
Yeah, like right here again, fool.
You just turned and you're like, "I'm right here."
I had to switch my hat. Like, what up, cuz?
6BLOCC is here. Yeah, right there. Oh, that's funny, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, and then back then also, and then when I started to make dubstep is when I really started to take production seriously. Because before that, I would just make tracks, but I'd never considered myself a producer,
Yeah.
But dubstep kind of changed all that, because now with dubstep, I also had to figure out how to make it sound dubstep, because at first a lot of my stuff that I was making sounded like slow hip hop.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I was just slowing down breakbeats down to 140 BPM halftime.
Right.
But then I quickly stopped using breakbeats and just started using drum hits, and then deep bass lines, and like really started to focus in on the real dubstep sound.
That's dope.
Yeah.
You started. So today you produce a lot of your own music, correct?
Yeah. These days, like I'm way more serious about it. Last year I went out and bought a MacBook Pro, put all the dope plugins. Like a lot of my friends hooked me up with free plugins and VSTs. And I just took a whole year, to kind of reset my approach to production, and like now, like my sound is a lot better than it's ever been.
But what would you consider the type of genre that you actually produce?
Right now, I'm really focused on jungle, but I just really consider myself a sample-based producer.
Okay.
Like I love to sample, and I like to take stuff and rearrange it I like to take things from movies,
right?
Especially the parts that no one would think you could sample, like the parts in between the dialogue.
Right.
Like for me, like that's like the best part, you know, like the parts that you wouldn't even consider to sample. Like sometimes there's stuff in the back of the television series or movies that has really good stuff that you could pick up on and modify.
That's dope.
Yeah.
As far as DJing, man, you started in Carson and you slowly started to work your way to events and undergrounds in LA, different parts of Southern California.
Yeah.
And what were some places that blew you away? Because at this point, you've gone out of state. What are some states that you've DJ'd at in the U.S.?
Do you mean like early on or like since then?
Since then, in the last, from the beginning. I mean, where have you been outside of California, even outside of the country to play?
I've been pretty much everywhere except Idaho.
You're fucking kidding me. What do you mean? Are you every state?
Yeah, every state.
You've played everywhere except for Idaho?
Except for Idaho and maybe
I can't say Nebraska because I just saw you post
like Nebraska.
And I said, Nebraska. What the fuck? You're going to Nebraska? There's a fucking scene in Nebraska?
Yep.
Like holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, but like pretty much everywhere except like I know that there's like Maine and Rhode Island,
right?
Like far off, you know, and like maybe South Carolina, but I played North Carolina, but not South Carolina.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever played in West Virginia, but I played in Virginia, you know.
Right.
But pretty much like the rest of, I don't think I played in Oklahoma either.
Okay.
Yeah, but I played in Tennessee. Like when I DJ'd in Tennessee, there was a real pimp who walked into the rave with a cane.
Shut the fuck up! Are you serious?
Yes, like
that's sick.
A tall pimp, like a real pimp with the fro and everything, like just walking with his coat.
Yeah.
You know, like a cane. And by the end of the party, everybody was like around him, dancing with him, and like he had like all this glow shit on him. But this pimp got raved. Like that fool got raved. Boom, boom, boom.
He got raved.
He got raved, dude. But like when he first walked in, he was like, "I'm too cool for y'all." And 3 hours later, this fool was like, he got raved.
Oh my god, that's fucking intense.
The rave pimped him.
Dude, we need to get you fucking to play in Idaho, bro.
Oh shit.
That's the only fucking place left.
Yeah, I know.
How about outside of the country, man? What places have you been and played in outside of the country?
I think all of Europe except for Spain. Like I've never played Spain. I never played Portugal. But I played the rest of Europe. I played in Tel Aviv twice.
That's dope. Jerusalem. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, like you know, like dude, like when I went to Tel Aviv, like it was just like being home. Like it was the same vibe. It was like it's almost like going to Venice Beach, you know, because Tel Aviv is right on the water.
Right. Wow.
And like when you go there, like they got the dope food. Everybody's chill. Like everybody's happy. Like that's the happiest crowd I've ever played to. Like.
Really?
They walk in dancing, they walk out dancing. Like everybody's just on it. But so I played Tel Aviv twice. I played in Ukraine maybe 3 times, and like Ukraine at the time was kind of sketchy, you know, like money wise. So like I always had to watch my back and stuff like that.
Oh shit.
I played in Russia. I did like a 10-city tour of Russia with my friend from Florida.
Oh, that's sick, man.
Yeah, like we went from Moscow to Sochi to Siberia.
Okay.
And like all these towns that I can't even pronounce.
Yeah.
And like that was really cool because like Russia is just like here. It's like the same. It's just they just speak a different language, but it's you know, like they don't. I don't know. It's just a different world out there. Like they have a different attitude than we do. Like we're more big mouth and show off, but they're more reserved and like more stern about their attitudes.
Right.
I used to tour a lot, like in Mexico, up until 2012, 2013.
Okay.
Because like their money kept going down, and then it got harder for the people. You know, well, the people I was dealing with, it got harder for them to fund, you know, doing the shows and stuff like that. So they all kind of went back to their occupations.
Yeah.
But I've been to Venezuela. I went to Caracas. I've been to Guatemala City, Costa Rica. I did a really cool festival in Costa Rica called Bamboo Bass Festival.
Oh, great name.
In 2003, I did a tour in Tokyo. That was really cool, but it was really expensive, man. Like that back then, it was really expensive. I think it's a little better now.
Yeah.
And then Canada. I used to tour Canada a lot, like all the different parts of Canada.
Yeah.
So,
out of all the places that you've played and toured all over the world, what was your top three? You know, that were the biggest takeaways, the best experiences in your book.
Well, experience-wise, it has to be Mexico, only because the people, the food.
Right. Oh. Right.
I mean, just being in Mexico City, just being in like Guadalajara, Xochimilco, Mérida, you know, like all the dope little cities. Veracruz is dope because it's always rainy, like over there, like in Veracruz.
Right.
So Mexico would have to be first because of the overall vibe from the people, because they really appreciate the fact that you come out, you know, because they don't get a lot of people that come from LA, especially.
Right.
You know, like they only see us on the internet, but to see us there, like it's like, oh shit, like what? Like it's like, you know, crazy to them.
Mind blowing.
Yeah. So to them, I like the cities where they appreciate it. So it would have to be Mexico. Second, I would say Belgium. Like Belgium was really special to me.
Why is that?
Because at the time in 2004 through 2008 and 2009, they were really supportive of my jungle.
Oh, cool.
Because they liked it fast and crazy back then.
Right.
And so I would fly out there all the time, and I would stay out there for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
So I would really get to feel what it was like to live there, and it was just peaceful. The people are cool. The coffee is good.
Wow. That's cool.
It's just a good vibe there. And it's just so different than America. It's really, really laid back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so number one, Mexico. Number two, Belgium. Number three, I would say Russia just because it was so different. But if I'm honest, number three would go to Guatemala City.
Oh, Guatemala City. Okay.
Yeah, just because the people there, once again, that supported drum and bass, like they all do it from the heart. And they're, you know, like they're really educated in drum and bass, and they take it seriously. And they, you know, it was one of those shows that I played at where I didn't expect a crowd to show up because it's in Guatemala, you know, but it pulled out like all the drum and bass heads. There was like 200 people, and everybody's dancing, you know, like a big room of people just dancing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Is there a place anywhere in the world where you haven't played that you still would love to play?
Yeah, like I really want to DJ in South America again, like either Peru or somewhere like Colombia. Because like
Peru. Okay. Is there a jungle or drum and bass scene in Peru or Colombia?
I think so. Yeah, but like, you know, I think they might just book primarily UK DJs and then their local guys from South America mostly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I would love to go to South America because I've been there as a tourist to Peru, but I never DJ'd there, you know. But I have a feeling like after watching some videos of their parties that like, you know, I would have a blast over there.
Yeah. Shout out to the Peru promoters if you guys are watching this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then and like you know what's a trip when I went to Peru is that everybody looked like me. Like everybody had the, you know, like had the little chinitos, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody. I was like, hey, it's all my brothers right here.
You're like, I'm home. I'm home.
Yeah.
Where's the coca leaves?
I'm home. Yo, I had to chew coca leaves because I was taking a medicine for the altitude, right?
Yeah.
But the medicine gave me vivid nightmares. So I stopped taking it. But as soon as I stopped taking it, my feet felt heavy.
What?
And then, and then I was like hallucinating. I was like, oh my God, like I was seeing weird shit. So I went to a market, like a little outdoor market, and they had a bag of coca leaves for like $1. I got one coca leaf. I put it in my cheek. Within 2 minutes, I was normal. I was like, oh shit. So like,
damn.
As a tourist, when you chew one leaf, it just balances you right out. Like, bam, and like I was cool. Like,
damn, too bad we can't buy bag of Coca Leaf. You're in the States.
Little wake up call.
A little wake up call in the morning instead of coffee.
Chico
Go to a drive-through and be like, let me get one Coca Leaf. A venti Coca Leaf, please.
A venti. You want whipped cream on that? No, I'm all right.
I'm all right, man. Just straight.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So you DJ fucking everywhere, bro. That's awesome, dude. It's a great. It's great to hear your journey, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you know we all started in high school, and to see your path go from DJing in Carson only to all over the world, it's
crazy.
Pretty fucking amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see that, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah, you know what? And like, once again, like, you know, I never got into this for all the fame and like all that part of it. You know what I mean? So, and I still don't have those yearnings. You know what I mean? But like, and because of that fact, I'm always trying to figure out a way to stay relevant during this age of so many people wanting to DJ, you know, because now like it's like a crowded room where like you have to stand out, you know. And so
it's crazy today, man, because I mean that was the transition of what I was going to ask you next. It's you started at a time where there was no technology, there was just vinyl, mixer, and there was not that many DJs. Today it's different. Like, you know, to be successful as a DJ today, you know, do you think it's harder or do you think it's easier because there's more gigs out there today?
Well, today it's a full-on, like, DJs, well, like the major ones that you're aware of, they have teams behind them.
Yeah.
That's why you're aware of them. That's the only way to make yourself, you know, popular these days, is to have a team behind you that's really pushing you, right? Because everybody walks around like this, right?
Right.
So if they're walking around like this, that means that the outside world doesn't matter.
Right.
Right? What's out here isn't relevant. What's in here is relevant. So the only way to appear here to a majority of people is to have that market push, right? Like, you know, to get placement. Right, like even on Spotify, there's labels that pay $10,000 to get placed on the chart before they're actually placing on the chart.
Oh shit!
And they do that so that because if you're not on the chart, people aren't going to be aware of you. You know, so like really, what I'm trying to get at is that these days, a lot of the DJs that are hot, they're hot because their whole thing is to be hot. Yeah. It's not to be a good DJ.
Right.
It's not. They're not well, I shouldn't say that they're not, but a majority, they don't think of it the way that we used to think of it, like in terms of skill and battle and trying to be different.
Right.
A lot of the major DJs these days they're imitating what's hot, and then they're marketing themselves to be hot, you know?
Right.
So these days it's like a different thing, because now it's more of a money making career.
Right.
You know, and like you could tell the DJs who do approach it from that point, right? Like, you know, when I run into them, I could tell that, oh wow, like they have their manager with them, like they have a photographer with them and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
You know, so that's a business approach to it, right? Like they're like little celebrities, you know, like Marshmello. That was a carefully planned gimmick, right?
And it's a great gimmick. It's
a great gimmick. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's people who do it for that. Like they approach it from you know, with goals of popularity and goals of, you know, having a hit. Right. But all those things are dependent on popular opinion, right? So now, what is popular opinion? Popular opinion is the opinion of general people. Right, regular Americans, regular people, right? And so now regular people, they want something catchy, something easy to remember, something funny or something gangster, something ghetto, you know?
Right.
Because like, you know, yeah, and so like these days, like it has changed. But my whole battle is being able to stay outside of that, but still stay relevant. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
so I pretty much managed to stay in my own lane, but still, still kind of be relevant enough. Like next year I have a big event that I'm doing with Bass Nectar in Mexico, called R.A.W. So like, even though that I'm not playing that marketing gimmicky game of a lot of the major DJs, I'm still managing to keep my foot in the door, barely, you know what I mean? But yeah, but like, it's still in there.
Nice.
But these days I'm really thinking about what's next. And I think what's next for me is moving into television and film, just doing more studio work, you know what I mean? And being in the studio, because I'm actually, these days I'm a lot happier and like I feel more fulfilled being in the studio than I do being out late at night,
Yeah. Right.
Even though it's cool doing shows and stuff like that, like when I'm in the moment there, it's cool.
Right.
But I'm a lot more content being able to generate money from home and, doing remix work or putting out my sample packs.
Right.
Yeah.
And having it sold online or to a movie studio or,
Yeah, I mean, because like I'm almost 50 years old, so mentally I'm telling myself that it's okay to move on from the DJ stuff, because it's been a long time, like, for me DJing. It's like 30 years,
Yeah.
So like I've already told myself, that it's okay to start to slowly navigate towards a different position, like within my career,
It's going to be tough to DJ at 70, man. You're going to want to take naps in the middle of the night during the set. You're going to have to take a nap real quick.
Like, like I'm going to have to sit down like in this chair that I have right here.
Yeah. Push a button. Program a 10-minute set. Just push a button and take a nap for 10 minutes.
I'm going to play like one of those Cameron Paul, like 30-minute mixes.
Oh my God, dude. So what kind of advice can you fucking give people, dude, that want to get into the DJ game today? 30 years ago, 20 years ago, different game. Today,
yeah, different rules. Back then, it's just do a good set and have a great time.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And be friendly and network. And so the networking and be friendly is still important.
Right.
Never take yourself seriously. That's the last thing you want to do. Like, as far as I'm concerned, don't take yourself seriously. Because then what's going to happen is that when you take yourself seriously, now you have expectations. And then when you have the letdown, it's going to bring you down because of the expectation, right? Because like the expectation puts your mind up here, and then when it gets crushed, it gets pushed down. Like, oh,
right.
So these days, just really be creative. Like when you wake up in the morning, think of ideas. Like for production, if you do songs, think of like a really cool idea, so that when you get in the studio, you just do that idea. You just don't sit there and try anything, because then you waste time.
Do you think it's vital to be more of a producer now than just a DJ in order?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you release music, especially on a bigger label, when you release on a bigger label, now that label is getting your name out there under that song. And I mean, there's tons of dubstep DJs who have one hit dubstep song and boom, they're on tour,
Really? Wow.
As opposed to just DJing and DJing and DJing and DJing and trying to make something out of just that. It's hard to do that.
Right.
But it's easy if you concentrate and really focus on production to making quality music. If you manage to get released on a major label, whether it's drum and bass or dubstep or even house, if you make music and submit it to big labels, then you're halfway there, and submitting the music, even if you feel like they might not take it, you never know what these labels are going to like, and you never know if they might use it down the line for a compilation or something,
Yeah.
So my advice is make quality music, listen to what's hot, and kind of stay within that realm. Share your music with big DJs, have them play it out and expose it. Send your music to major labels. Work with other artists. That's one of the best things you can do.
Right.
Network, be friendly. During the week, go to bed early, wake up early, and kind of treat your days like work days. Even though that you might be self-employed as a producer or DJ,
Right.
That's one of the best changes that I made, is treating my weekdays like work days. Because I used to just be like, oh, I'm home, I don't DJ today, you know, and just kicking back.
Right.
But a lot of that time, there's other producers that are working hard on shit, and you're just kicking back, you know. So just, you know, like, realize that there's a lot of other producers and DJs that are on it and that are hustling. So any moment that you're watching sports or the Dodgers and this and that, someone else is in the studio or networking, you know. So when you're in this DJ electronic music world, every moment is a moment that could go towards your career, and the more you put into it, the more you get out.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And yeah, I mean, you know, like when I met DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill, he really puts a lot of, I mean, he's in the studio like at 7 in the morning until like 2 in the morning, and he'll be back in there at 7, you know.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, he's in there all day creating, and he's working on all these different projects, you know.
Yeah.
So he's the one who kind of, you know, he was the example for me that there's people that are on it. Like, they're not just on it.
Yeah.
Like after work, or no, they're on it all day.
All day.
Yeah. Past the day, you know.
Would you say that's an individual that inspires you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
DJ Muggs, Cypress Hill?
Yeah. Yeah. Like DJ Muggs, because he was the first producer I met who made health part of his like regimen, you know, like,
really?
I used to notice that he had books like around the studio, like self-help books, and he had water all the time. And
yeah,
you know, I remember we did a show together in Denver, and he had made a comment about going home and cleansing, you know, and taking a cleanse, and that was just after like one show, just drinking a few beers, you know, like nothing major.
Right.
But cleansing his body after the weekend was like, you know, something that he did. So, you know, and just watching his like the way that he did his merchandise for the Soul Assassins clothing line.
Yeah.
You know, it just showed me that there's people that are really on it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, when we're DJs or in the electronic scene, we could end up wasting a lot of time hanging out with people, right? And like hanging out with homies and just hanging out, you know, just having people around and smoking weed or drinking or whatever.
Right.
Which is what I did mostly in the 90s.
Right.
But now I realize that if you spend your time like really on it, like good things will happen. You know what I mean? Like good things can only happen if you're on it like that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, so like, that's why now, like these days, you know, I always find myself rushing back into the studio, even though it's like the same thing, you know, like I'm always in here, like pretty much like all week.
Yeah.
But the more that I'm in here, the more stuff is coming out, and like the more consistent, you know, like your music is. So, yeah.
I love that process, man. I love what you said is, you know, as a DJ, you know, you can work the weekend and now you have 3 or 4 days off that you can just chill at home.
Yeah.
But if you treat every day like a work day, you can get so much shit done.
Yeah.
That's fucking profound, dude.
I mean, yeah, because like there's even like on Sundays, sometimes I have to force myself not to come in here, you know. I have to force myself to go out and do what everybody else is doing, like going to the beach, going to Santa Monica, going to the mall, like just doing regular stuff, you know.
Right.
But when I do take those breaks and time out to do that, it's like refreshing because it's not the same old thing, you know. But I do have to force myself to like to do those things because I'm so programmed to just keep coming back here, you know, to the studio.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Is there any DJ out there that you've always looked up to, that you were inspired throughout your career?
Who stands out?
I know it's Jazzy Jeff.
Well, he's a cool cat, but I mean, DJ Muggs, like, you know, I never expected him to ask me to co-produce his album, his dubstep album. So for me, I was like really surprised, like, what the heck, you know?
Oh, wow.
But since that time, he's kind of been an inspiration. I feel like a lot of like initially when I first started DJing, it was the K-Day guys that were like my inspiration, like Bobcat, Egyptian Lover, even Battle Cat, DJ Unknown, DJ Aladdin.
Right.
Everybody involved with those early days.
Yeah.
But as far as techno and like that whole world goes, I can't really put my finger on one, because to me, I mean, for some reason, I really respect the guys from Chicago and Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason that I really respect them is because they have their own sound, and they still represent their own sound.
Yeah.
Nobody can imitate it. Nobody can even try to imitate it. Like, it's just from there.
Chicago house, man. The house.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And there's some YouTube videos. There's a long 4-hour history of house video about Chicago and New York and how house music went from there, then eventually to Europe.
Yeah.
But for me, I think those guys inspire me, like Jeff Mills and a lot of the guys from Chicago.
Yeah.
Only because I know how serious they are, like, about their music, you know? So, like, when I see their interviews, like, it's just cool to see someone, you know, approach the music and the DJ from a really serious standpoint. Like, with me, it's always been about having fun, and like, I'm pretty laid back about it.
Yeah.
But I do it because it's what I like to do. That's why I do it, because I like it, you know.
Right.
But when I saw the interviews with the guys from Detroit, they take it really deep. Like, to them, it's a religion.
Yeah.
And they kind of guard it, you know, and it's an art form to them. It's something that they see art about it. So like, I would say the guys from Detroit and Chicago, like the older DJs from out there. And of course, I really respect Todd Terry and Kenny Dope.
Yeah.
And a lot of the studio engineers from New York, Chep Nunez, and a lot of the guys who did the cutting records.
Yeah.
Omar Santana, Lenny D, Tommy D, Adam X, all the guys from like the early techno labels in New York. Like,
right.
I respect them more now because I'm now aware that before techno, they were doing records in the 80s, like early breakbeat, like b-boy records. Yeah.
Shout out to Frankie Knuckles.
Oh yeah.
Damn. Ooh.
Yeah, like all those guys. I mean, because that was like the generation before me. You know?
Yeah,
and so like they were
fucking beasts, man.
They were about it back in the 80s the way that I'm barely about it now, you know?
Yeah, right. That's fucking dope, dude.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, bro.
Yeah.
And you're not going to expect this question, but you've always had the support as a DJ from your mom in high school. But your dad was always a little like, bro, what are you doing? Why are you DJ? Go be a doctor. Go be an engineer. What the fuck? You can't be just DJing and eating pancakes all fucking day.
Yeah.
Like, how does your dad feel now that you've garnered so much success in something that at one point he might have not maybe had a different opinion of it?
Yeah, I mean, like, now that I'm older and now that I have a son, right? Like, I have a son, so now I could see what they saw, right? Like, because like you see the danger in taking a risk,
right?
Because at the time, once again, nobody ever thought about a DJ as like blowing up or even any, you know, being able to generate money, you know?
Right.
That's not how, you know, I wasn't in it for that, and no one even looked at it like that. So my parents were. My parents always told me that if you just go to college, we'll pay for everything. Just go to college and we'll handle it.
Right.
And like,
go to college today, you're broke.
Yeah, pretty much. It's crazy.
Right.
But back then I knew that there was that option was there for me. But I was, you know, during those early years, I was enjoying the slow rise, right? Because like things were getting better and better and better. And I was like, okay, this is getting good. Like, I'm getting paid, you know?
Right.
Yeah, but definitely, like, my dad was more college-minded. Like, he went to college, and he was very a college-minded person. You know, someone who played by the rules. You know, like, I remember one time he made a comment that he's a law-abiding citizen, and like when he said that was at the time when I was getting into the underground. Right. And when you're in the underground, you're not a law-abiding citizen.
Not a law-abiding
citizen. Breaking the law.
Oh.
So for me, when he made that comment, like it's always stuck in my head. But like for me, like that was who he was. You know, he wanted to play by the traditional American rules of the world. You know,
right. Going to college, getting a degree, getting a good job.
Yeah,
which there was a small window for that back then. Back then, college was less expensive. Today, it's a little out of control.
Yeah, it's weird now. But like a few years ago, like maybe 5-10 years ago, he told me something along the lines of I'm really impressed that you were able to have a family and still DJ, you know? So like, in other words, he thought that when I had children, that it was going to kind of pull me away from the DJing and pull me back into the real world, you know, of like a job and stuff. So I think after I became 6BLOCC and traveled a lot is like when they really saw it differently, you know, because prior to that I was traveling here and there, but not, you know, between the years 2006 and 2014 is when I traveled a lot.
Right.
So I think during those years is when they said, okay, like, you know, he's doing something with this.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope, dude. So, dude, where can people? I know you mentioned that I was going to ask you what's next for you, but you want to transition to more film.
Yeah.
Work for film. Are you thinking about maybe movies, sounds for movies, film, things like that?
Yeah, like for the past few months, I've been watching a lot of television series, but I've been watching them to listen to what they put in the background.
To the sound,
like,
okay.
Yeah, like to create the tension, the drama, the scary energy of a scene, you know.
Watch out, John Williams.
Yeah, I mean, and like I know, like something I've been telling myself is that I just need to put together a tape of, you know, like a little video of me basically putting in my own backgrounds to popular movies or film.
Yeah.
So I need to find some videos that have dialogue from the film.
Right.
Where I could just put in like my own stuff, you know, but like I definitely want to approach, you know, some major companies and like, you know, basically barge in.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, man.
Yeah, so but I want to definitely step on the gas with that.
Where can people find you on social media, dude? Or if anybody wants to book you in Peru?
Yeah. Where's my business card? Where's my wallet? Oh, it's over there somewhere. But I have you could go to my Bandcamp. I don't know if you could see it through here.
I see. Wait. Zoom a little bit out. Okay. 6BLOCC.bandcamp.com or SoundCloud is soundcloud.com/digital6. I see.
Yep.
Facebook.
Every day I'm sampling.
Every day I'm sampling. I like it. That's stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I want to thank you for being on the show, brother. You've been an inspiration, for the last 20 to 30 years to see your growth as a DJ. I got to witness it firsthand with a lot of, friends that are in our inner circle from the South Bay, and to see your success today, it's been really an inspiration, and it's been great to see that and be a part of that in some way.
Thanks, man.
Bro, and for the people watching, I think they'll get inspired, and for those that want to really become a DJ or producer, they're going to listen to this and say, okay, that's the path that I need to take to be successful.
Yeah, like as a matter of fact, last night my wife was DJing like in the front room, right? And she still doesn't have the courage to DJ. Like, I'm really trying to get her out there to DJ because she plays good, like she can't really blend the songs yet or mix them properly, but like she does good at like fading it out and putting in something cool,
Oh shit, nice. Okay.
But last night she was practicing, and I went in there with my laptop to watch Netflix, and then like I realized, oh shit, like I'm kind of killing her vibe. Like sometimes it's good to be alone.
Right.
And play your music. So then when I noticed that, right, like when I walked in with my laptop, I was about to sit down next to where she was. I quickly got up and just went to the bedroom to just leave her alone,
Right.
Because when you're learning to DJ, I feel like it's really good to kind of be in your own world, like your own zone,
right,
and to kind of get comfortable with it, like on your own, you know what I mean? So
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
She probably gets a little nervous too. It's like,
I noticed that. Yeah, she always makes a face like, oh great, he's here, you know. But like I know that's because she probably feels like I'm gonna be like, oh, don't play that, oh, don't do that, you know. But
speed it up a little bit. Speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, because
slow down.
I'm the worst to like put my hand on the pitch. I mean, like I even do it at parties these days and like help out DJs. Like I'm always like, oh, get over here. I can't stand for the mix to be off. Like I can't stand it. I'm like, oh, let me fix that.
Let me fix that. Let me adjust that.
Yeah.
Cool, brother. Well, dude, it was great talking to you, brother. Thanks for coming on the show, dude. And
for sure.
When are you DJing in Nebraska? When is that happening?
That's happening October 26th, like at the end of October.
Dude, that's going to be interesting. I would love to see video of that, man.
Oh yeah,
definitely videotape that, take pictures. I'd love to see that scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, brother. Well, thanks for being on the show, and
okay,
we'll talk soon, brother.
All right, man. Peace.
Later, man.